Hi, my name is Jay from Vision Coding, and we have a special guest today from India, AWS, Samsung. We'll talk more about it. But Vishal, I'll give you an opportunity to maybe introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Jay. And hello, everybody. So, I'm Vishal, and I'm originally from India, as Jay told. So, currently, I'm a software developer at Samsung Electronics, and I'm visiting South Korea for some fun, for some business. So, I would be transitioning to Amazon in next month, and yeah, today I think we'll have a fun talking about software engineering in general.
Yeah, very exciting news that you're joining AWS. But before we get into that, maybe could you tell me about your background going into Samsung?
Yeah. So I'll start from college. So I have a master's degree in mathematics and a bachelor's in electronics and electrical engineering. So right after college, like right after my master's, I joined Samsung as an intern first, and then I was converted into a full-time employee. And since then, I have been with Samsung for like almost a three and a half years time frame. And it's been really great working here. There's a lot of learning, lot of amazing things, and plus it's a global company, so you get that exposure of seeing things outside of just your like country, outside of India. So yeah, that has been a great journey so far.
Yeah, that's exciting. And you have a background in electrical engineering and masters in mathematics, right?
Yeah.
So, how do they come together in software engineering and computer science, and what you do in Samsung and like your interview process in AWS? How does that work?
Okay. So I'll give you a brief of like background, how is it related to software and how I got into. So initially my plan was to go into research. That's why I took like mathematics. But then I got like little interested into algorithms. We had courses on graphs, we had courses on algorithm designing, their analysis, etc. So it's more of a theory perspective rather than implementing it into code. But it gave me that base knowledge which was required for problem solving. Because at the end of the day, all software jobs are like solving a problem, complex problem by some algorithms, right? So that mathematics gave me background of all of that problem solving skills. Plus, my current profile is very much related to hardware. So we write software for the hardware, like the firmware code. So electronics really helped me understand how the controller is working, how the hardware actually is working, what all things are going on there, and how you like write code for that. So that's how like I kind of got into all of this, and ultimately I transitioned into software by like preparing by practicing coding myself in my free time. So yeah, it kind of mix of my own like endeavors into software engineering plus whatever was taught in university.
Okay, sounds good. And now you're transitioning from Samsung to AWS,
Yeah.
right? And I assume the interview process involved for AWS is different, and there are many, steps involved.
Yes.
So could you walk me through like each of the interview process and what it entails?
Yeah. So it was a long interview process, I would say, and there were total of 5 rounds. So initially, I had a call from HR, like via LinkedIn. So they texted me via LinkedIn and they like approached me for this profile. And then we had a initial call, like phone call, in which we discussed what is the role about, what they are expecting from me as a developer, what expectations I have from the company, like the kind of role I want, if I'm interested, not interested, all of that basic things. Then we kind of agreed on certain points, and the HR sent me a coding test. So that was the first round, I would say.
So that was take-home coding test.
Yeah, take home coding test. So Amazon has this take home coding test. They give you a window of I think 1 week it was. So in 1 week you can take the test at your own time, whatever is comfortable. And yeah, there were as far as I remember, two coding questions and some questions, multiple choice questions on system design, and a few behavioral questions which you had to answer, like again multiple choice, but they were related to principles, Amazon principles, Amazon leadership principle, as they call it.
Yep, yep.
So related to that. So that was like the entire coding process. And after, I think 1 week after the test was completed, I got a call from HR that my coding test was a pass, successful, and they are proceeding me to the further round. So after the coding test, they proceeded me for in-person interview. So that was also virtual, online. And yeah, there was like I was interviewing like 4 back-to-back rounds with 4 different people, 4 different person. And yeah, so first round was general DS algo round, where they asked me a couple of questions. It was not very hard, I would say, like a very out of the box question, but they asked me a very basic question, and then they tried to change the question in a manner to understand how I think. And then like it was more of a how I think than what I already know.
Can you give me an example of like those
So I
questions?
cannot say what was asked in the question, in the test, like in that interview at that time. But I would give you an analogy so that it's easier for everybody to understand. So let's say you are designing something. They would ask you to design an elevator, let's say. Give a algorithm for elevator. So you can say first in, first out, or last in, first out. Like how do you come up with the thinking of an elevator? Then they would put in some more constraint on it. So let's say initially we had one elevator in the building. Now your building is expanding, and you are like adding 2 more elevators. So how do you like add that into this particular system? So similar kind of pattern, but into a DS algo problem. So they initially asked me a very simple question, and then they add more constraint on it. Okay, if this happens, then how will you change your algorithm? And if this happens, how will you change this algorithm? Something like that. So it was, I would say, not very hard in terms of the knowledge needed. It was not very fancy coding algorithm. They were not asking me like the hardest coding algorithms, but they were just checking the basics. And on top of the basics, they were checking how I think. So that was the first round. Second round was also similar, like DS algo round only. Kind of similar to first one, but it was with a different interviewer, and they asked me a different, like completely different question. And the third round was high-level design. So in third round, they asked me to come up with a like complete system from the scratch with high-level design principles. How like it was more of a, how you will do balancing, like load balancing. How will you mitigate risk of like availability of the system, or is it persistent or not? All of these like cap theorem things. And on top of it, how you make your algorithm faster, how many server will you need, all those kind of things. So it was like a complete high level end to end, from like how you think till how you design, and how will you give it after for a low level like engineer to an engineer, so that they can use this entire picture for a class diagram and low level things. So that was the third round. And fourth round was a low level design, where just I gave that example of elevator. A very similar question was asked, where I had to come up with the entire set of classes needed into building a particular system, and whatever algorithms are needed there. So all the class diagrams, what all design patterns one can use, all these like knowledge was necessary in that low level design. And finally, yeah, after I think all these coding rounds were done within 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks I got a call from recruiter that the response is positive, and they are like going forward with my profile, and they will be sending a offer letter very soon. So that was like the entire process, from the getting a call on LinkedIn till like getting into the final offer letter.
Oh, okay. So that's quite complex and challenging.
Yeah. It's a
Steps.
process which tests your designing capabilities, which tests your algorithm capabilities. And yeah, I forgot to mention one thing. So all of these rounds They had one or two questions based on my previous experiences, uh, based on leaderships. So something similar to how I work with my teammates, how I uh, ask for help, how I do things in a day-to-day environment.
So a lot of behavior questions as
Yeah, a
well.
lot of behavioral questions as well. So they were clubbed with the coding questions. So let's say it's a 1 hour interview. So 40-45 minutes will be coding, and last 10-15 minutes would be behavior interview. So something like that.
And did you have to prepare a lot or spend a lot of time preparing for these algorithms and stuff like that? Or did your engineering and then mathematical background and also your previous job experience at Samsung come in to help for an interview? I guess it's a combination of all, but
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of everything. But I think if anybody is appearing for an interview, it's really good to brush up on the basic concepts, and not to like hurry into fancy topics, because most of the companies they will not ask you um, high level DP problems and very complex graph problems, all of that. They try to understand how you think more than how many algorithms can you like write in 10 minutes. So most of the farm companies are like that. So they will definitely test you on your knowledge, what you know. But if you don't know anything, I don't recommend doing it like right before the interview. So whatever you know, I think I just brushed up on all the basics, and yeah, that was how I prepared. And my previous experience also helped a lot, because all this designing, all this low-level things, these one cannot learn in like 1 week, 2 week time span. So as you are working in your company, wherever you work, I think it's really important to pay attention how your seniors, how the architects, how are they designing. It's really important to ask questions during that time. That like it's a day-to-day process. It's not like one can learn in 5 or 10 days. And if you don't have a background in software as such, so then I think you should take a proper like 3 to 4 months time window where you learn the basics first, and then you appear for some kind of interview.
did you have to do a lot of leak code problems before applying for AWS or?
Yeah. So yeah, I practiced on lead code. So the thing is, one part of it is having the knowledge, and other part of it is applying that knowledge in that 1 hour window. So that is very tricky part. So for that, definitely lead code is necessary. So I did like lead code. I think I did 40 to 50 problems in a span of 15 to 20 days, just to brush up again. Before that, I had done lead code during college time. So that time I had done, I think, 400 to 500 problems. So I was very familiar with it, how like the problems are, what kind of algorithms will be asked, and all of that. But just to brush up, just to be fast on the keypad, just to make more of the 1 hour time frame, whichever is allotted in the interview. I practiced like 40-50 problems before my interviews.
So, from your perspective, do you think it is necessary to have a relevant engineering degree or experience to get into big tech companies like Microsoft and AWS and so on and so forth? Or if you have a basic knowledge of algorithm and software engineering, can you also, get your job done and then get those interviews and pass?
Yeah, I think at the moment it is not very necessary to have a degree in engineering, or have like degree in science and degree in mathematics as such. Uh, it mostly depends on how well you think about problem solving, and how well you like how much efforts you are willing to put in into something. Because yeah, they don't actually have a criteria for, let's say, degree in this particular field, degree in some companies filter like that. But most of the big tech companies, most of the like open companies nowadays, even startup, they are looking for people who can do the job rather than some kind of degree they hold. So if you are good in a particular language, if you are good in problem solving, I think that is more than enough for any interviewer.
How important do you think is communication in when working with teammates or for a company or when applying for an interview?
Uh, I think communication is 50% of the job uh, for a day-to-day software engineer, because there are a lot of uh, stakeholders. It's not like you are writing your own code and it's just you, because you have a team. Then there will be other teams who will be giving in dependencies, who will be, so it's very important to have a clear communication, clear guidelines, all of that. So communication is very important as such. And when it comes to interviews, again, like, it's very important to express what you are trying to do with the code, so that interviewer is also able to understand it within that time window. And if there is some kind of conflict, because many questions, many problems will have a lot of different approaches to them, they can be solved with different algorithms. So let's say your interviewer is asking you something and you come up with something new at the moment which he is not aware of. So it's very important for the person coming as an interviewee to explain to the interviewer. So that gives you the edge, that you have come up with something new and you are able to explain it also. So that is the add-on step, I would say.
I guess the takeaway is be verbose and then be communicative about
Yes, yes,
your
yes,
thoughts during the
yes.
interview process.
Yes,
And
very important.
yeah, I think that's also very necessary in performing day-to-day job at a company, at a team level, or
Yes,
things like that, right? Yeah, that's great. So my next question is, I mean, many people around the world with the rise of AI and especially those open AI, ChatGPT kind of stuff, and the humanoid, so on and so forth, that's endangering the jobs of people around the world, especially in the IT industry. And I just want to ask you, with that um, with that technology quickly advancing than anything, do you think learning coding is necessary?
yes. I would say it's very easy now, and learning coding gives you, not coding as such, I would say learning problem solving is more important than like learning a particular language. So if you are, let's say you try to do some lead code problem and you are able to come up with the approach, now you can ask your chat gpt or whatever AI assistant you are using to write that code, and then you can check, okay, if this is correct or not. But that problem solving skill, that thinking skill, that you have to feed into the algorithm, right? That you have to feed into the chat gpt or whatever AI assistant. So I would say learning problem solving is very important. And how you solve the problem, the coding language or the chat gpt, whatever, these are just the tools how you will solve the problem for the actual real physical world. So focus on the basics, the problem solving. And language, AI assistants, all of these things change over time. All of these things are like, uh, 10 years, 15 years back, C++ was the big thing, Java was the big thing. Now Python is something, then Rust is coming up. So these things will change. These are just tools. Basic, I think, is the problem solving skill that one should inculcate. And these are just tools. Whichever you like, you can use it as you go.
I totally agree because you're not just using one single programming language in
Yeah.
a job. Like you have to implement the problem solving skills to implement XYZ tech skills into solving XYZ problems.
Yes, yes, yes.
That kind of leads into my next question, which I think you already answered. But what's the most important skill that a programmer or coder or engineer can have?
Yeah, so as you said, I already answered. So that is problem solving, definitely. But on top of problem solving, I think it's effective communication, effective documentation, because there are a lot of problems which can't be solved, or I wouldn't say can't, because you can do it, but it takes a lot of time for a single person to come up with all of the right approaches, right things. So communication with the team, dividing the work, like asking for help, uh, ultimately communicating what you need, communicating what others need, and like helping others and taking help from others. That is one other thing which is very important other than like problem solving for any aspiring software engineer. Like be helpful and don't be hesitant to ask for help is what I would say.
Okay. And these days, there are a lot of engineers with no CS degree. Or
Yeah.
for myself as well, I do not have a CS degree, but
Yeah.
I'm working as a DevOps engineer. So throughout the process, obviously, I had a lot of, I guess, difficulties and challenges. And I would like to ask you if you had to give an advice to a person with no CS degree who wants to transition their career into IT, what kind of advices would you give to them?
Okay, that's a hard one because I never thought it in this manner.
Or maybe like, what's the expectations from a company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the main challenge anybody who is coming from a non-CS degree background would be to proving themselves that they can do it, because any company who is hiring you, they would want you to work on something. So I think it's good to have projects right before, like when you're learning something, you think of learning in the sense you make something up, not just do lead code. I think other than lead code, coming up with some projects of your own, doing something that impacts the real world, making something useful for people, that is very important. So I would say, other than like inculcating the problem solving skill, try to do it by solving an actual real world problem. You can do it like most of the problems people solve, so you can find something on GitHub already. You try to make something better, one step better than that, of your own while you're learning. So I think that would be really good for anybody who is starting from scratch.
And what kind of programming languages would you recommend to start off with?
Uh,
I mean, it's a personal preference, but
Yeah, I think Python is a good one to start with. There are a lot of libraries for everything. It can work in backend, it can work with web, it can work with machine learning, anything. So it gives you a lot of areas to explore. Plus, it's very easy to learn for beginners. So I think Python would be the one I would recommend.
I see. And I guess it's a bit of a milestone, a huge milestone for you getting a job at AWS and working previously at Samsung. So, do you have sort of goals for the next few years, or do you want to work for different companies or do a startup? Like, what are your goals and I guess wants going forward in the future?
Okay. Goals as such, I think I just want to focus on being a better software engineer at the moment, because I don't have a lot of experience. So just learning how my seniors work, how the architects are like working on big problems. So just trying to be a better software engineer is what I am currently focusing on. And I don't have any plans as such for like anything like switching jobs or doing a startup, but just problem solving and being better at it day by day. That's what I'm focusing on at the moment.
Okay, that's great. And how is your compensation, I guess, look like compared to Samsung and AWS? Did it jump up a lot, or do you get more benefits, things like that? I guess a lot of people are curious about what kind of, compensation you get working in a big tech.
Yeah, definitely. So the compensation part is like initially when you jump your initial few jobs, initial few roles, then I think you will get a good compensation as such. So it would be somewhere around 50 to 100% high for like initial SD1, SD2 type roles. So for me it was also similar, but in India the compensation band is a very like different from US, so the numbers vary. But it kind of boils down to percentage wise in a similar manner. So yeah, it was a decent jump, I would say, and it's a like recommendation for anybody new in their career just to try out things. Uh, and I think in general, switching jobs for initial like 5 years is a good thing in tech. As I understand, I am not very sure because I don't have that much of experience. But this is what I heard from my college seniors, from my colleagues in other companies and all. Yeah. So
Is it as competitive as in the US getting into AWS?
yeah,
What is it like in India?
yeah. So it's similar. Uh, I think Amazon also have a global leadership, and the interview process, everything is same. It's just they have a different payroll system in the US and they have different payroll system in India. So just the parity purchasing power is come into picture. So like they will you will be like in US also. I think if you are in Seattle you will be compensated differently. If you are in Bay Area, if you are in New York, that those are like costly areas, so there you will be compensated differently. So I think they have something similar. All tech companies have look like location wise pay range. So that is I think always there, but the interview process, everything is kind of similar everywhere around the world.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I guess I have asked every questions. Do you have anything to mention or say?
No, I think yeah, it's been great talking to you today. It's been great in being in South Korea. It's a great country, and yeah, I would love to visit you again sometime. Yeah,
Sounds good. Okay, well, thank you for watching the interview with Vishal. We talked about many great things about the interview process for Amazon and the real core values of, I guess, approaching those problems, which is problem solving and I guess persistence and consistency, right? So, thank you, Vishal, and I hope you enjoy your time in South Korea.
yeah,
And maybe the next few years, if you transition into senior role in AWS or to a different company, we can have another chat
yeah.
and then see if anything has changed. But
Sure.
thank you, and yeah,